I enjoy coming to work every day knowing that clients are depending on me to guide them through whatever financial needs they have.
Every client we have is different. And so it's really about finding out what's really the most important thing per client.
With financial planning, everything is interconnected. So a comprehensive plan means that you're taking care of income needs now, income needs in the intermediate term, and income needs long term. We'll do an asset cycle portfolio. We'll do a riskalyze test. We'll do a life insurance audit or a life insurance review.
And so when we build a deep relationship with our clients, then we can take a step back and then we can look at different options to help them specifically get to their goals. One of the things I feel our job is as advisors is to introduce strategies to clients that maybe they did not know that they were out there. But it's our idea, our job to come out and say, have you ever thought about this?
And the planning it's not always about income, but a lot of it is also about the legacy. So the element of family is very important to us, and it's important to our clients.
Welcome to Financially Speaking with Jeff Bush. My name is Steve Jablonski, and I'll be the host for today's show. We have a great topic today, Jeff. It's something that we all hope and we all want to accomplish someday, which is retirement. But some of the statistics that I've been seeing lately are quite alarming.
Yeah, well, hello, Steve. Welcome to the show. It's great to be here, PCTV. It's always nice to get in front of the camera here in the PCTV studios here in Pottstown High School and talk about the important financial topics that are relevant to our listeners. And today, of course, we're going to talk about retirement. And retirement is really for everybody. You know, of course, you're at various stages of preparing for retirement or being in retirement. But today, we're really going to focus on all the things that are facing people that are retiring.
And I know recently we've had some people in the news from Informed Family. If you can keep us up to date on that, it'd be great.
Yeah, so before we get started on this, Steve, really a lot of exciting things happening at the company. And of course, you just did an interview, and that was for what, U.S. News and World Report?
U.S. News and World Report.
And I was just quoted in U.S. News and World Report, so that's good news. And I was just published in Kiplinger, and I did an interview for Enterprise Radio. And of course, our colleague Barry has been on Investopedia, and you were in the Norristown Patch. So really, a lot of good things going on. So we got that PR train really rolling along here. So that's good. And of course, we always do this show, and we do the public seminars. So it's all good stuff.
Yep. And Jeff, we could probably spend all day talking about retirement, but for today, we'll look at what's the landscape, what would it look like 20 years ago, today, and moving forward? And we can start there.
Yeah, we could probably spend a number of shows on this topic, since this is virtually all that we do at Informed Family. But there's a lot of critical things that are happening today. And one is, this is not your father's stock market. So if you look at, and we got a chart for this, so if you look at your father's stock market, and we just call it that, it's really the market in the 20 years leading up to the turn of the century. So from 1980 to 1999, it was basically a 20-year bull run where the market just shot straight up. So if you were retiring during that period of time and you were invested in equities, I mean, you were making money. Even if you were taking income out of your accounts, you were making money. Well, then something happened at the turn of the century. Remember Y2K? Mm-hmm. Of course, this has nothing to do with Y2K. But, you know, there was this big fervor when we had Y2K. And, you know, you probably, maybe you bought a couple of cases of extra water and you had a generator in your basement, and maybe you had a lot of canned food, and you were ready. You were ready for it.
Yep.
I know you, Steve. You were probably prepared.
A little extra firewood.
A little extra firewood.
Yep.
Well, actually, nothing happened.
Yep.
The computers didn't shut down. We didn't come to a grinding halt. However, the stock market began to become very, very volatile, and it was really started by the tech bubble, and then we had 9/11, and it was really, we were really in crisis mode. And we were in crisis mode for a while, and then we recovered from that. And then we had the financial crisis. We had all the, these banks, were, finance institutions, a lot of problems. So it's been a volatile market.
Yeah.
So if you're retiring now, it's tricky. It's very tricky.
And we go back many years. There was this kind of popular, famous rule called the 4% rule. And when we look at the difference in the market today, does that hold water?
Well, the 4% rule, and of course, just to define what the 4% rule was or is, meant that you could safely withdraw 4% of your retirement account and not run out of money. Well, that's not true anymore, because if you're taking 4% out when the market's going down, you could be in a heap of trouble.
Yeah.
So that's no longer true.
Yep. And so when we look and we go back years ago, another thing that people talk about is really the three-legged stool. And, I think that's a really good place to start today.
Yeah, so retirement today is very different than it was a generation ago, Steve. So today, when you look at the three-legged stool, you have Social Security, you have pensions, and then you have retirement savings. And of course, the pensions aren't what they were 30 years ago. More and more people are retiring without pensions. It used to be when you retired, you had a pension, you had Social Security, you didn't have a lot of moving parts, you didn't have a lot to worry about. Now, pensions are becoming less and less common. Big corporations are doing away with pensions, and people are becoming more reliant on savings,
Yep.
which makes them more reliant on the stock market.
Yeah.
So that's why, getting back to your previous question about the 4% rule, that's why it's more and more important to, when you're building up these savings and you're building retirement income strategies, to put an emphasis on guarantees.
And Jeff, what, for everybody, maybe somebody doesn't know exactly what a pension is. Like, does the employee put any money in there? Maybe how is that on a overall, how is it figured? Or?
Generally, it's a benefit that's provided by the company that you're working for, whether it's a government agency or whether it's a corporation, and it's a benefit. And it's actually, what it is, it's an annuity payment in the form of what they call a pension. So it's a payment that you're going to get for life. And of course, if you're married, you can put your spouse on there, and you can get, various forms of spousal benefits on a pension as well. It was really the cornerstone of middle America, 40 years ago, but it's not that way today.
And so it's really gone down a lot. I mean, I've read statistics where over 50% of people had pensions 30, 40 years ago, and now it's less than 10.
Yeah, that's true, because it's a huge liability for a corporation. You have to have money to fund this pension, and it's really now a shift of risk, and that's why these 401ks have become so big, because those are accounts that are in the name of the employee,
Yeah.
and the employee really has control of the growth of that account, and therefore the risk. So it's a dramatic shift in risk.
And I've read for some of the governmental employees, the question is, what's the health of the actual pension? Are they properly funded? Are they figuring it correctly? Is there enough money for all the recipients?
That's a good question, Steve, because the reality of it is a lot of these pension companies are in trouble they're required to send you a statement every year, these pension companies, and tell you how much they're funded. And you look at that, because I know I get one, because the company I used to work for, I'm eligible for a pension. So every year I see that they're 100% funded or 94% funded. And what that means is that's how much money they have to fund future payments, future liabilities that they have to their pension, the pension recipients, if you will. So you see a lot more companies are having trouble because they got to keep funding, and of course that's tied to the stock market. And then, you know, if the company has problems with cash flow, it becomes difficult for them to fund it. And then if these companies go under, then and I think the biggest example of recent years was Enron, of course, because of their stock and their, you know, all the problems that they had. But there's a pension benefit guarantee corporation that guarantees the pensions, but what we've seen is they're only pennies on the dollar.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so people can really get hurt significantly, and it's a struggle because people are depending on this pension, and then sometimes it's not there. It's just simply not there.
And that leads me to personal savings and what investment vehicles are out there. Are people saving more now, saving less now that they don't have pensions?
Well, people aren't saving enough. Let me put it that way. You have 401ks at work. You have IRAs, individual retirement accounts that you can save for, and you get a little bit of a tax break. Roth IRAs, which, you know, grow tax-free. So there's really a lot out there. Annuities, you can invest in annuities and get tax-deferred growth. So there's a lot of investment vehicles, but people aren't saving nearly enough. And this is the safest way to do it because you have complete control over the money.
Yeah. Okay. Now, when we get into Social Security, what's the landscape of that look like? What did it look like when it first came out in 1935? What's it look like today?
Well, Social Security has changed dramatically also, and that's because back in 1935 there was a lot more workers for people that were receiving benefits, and now I think the ratio is like 2 workers for every 1 person receiving a benefit.
Yep.
So those benefits are now watered down. They're taxed, or they can be taxed. You have to be, you're older now. It used to be 65, you get full retirement benefits. Now it's 66, and eventually it'll be 67 until you get full benefits. So that's changed. And of course, the solvency of that is in question too, because eventually, you know, they're going to run out of money.
And when we look at retirement, it doesn't seem like people are really educated on it. So is there anything out there that you think would help people get better prepared for this?
Well, as far as education goes, there's a lot of stuff out there. Of course, you know, we live in the age of the internet, which, you know, sometimes that can be good and sometimes that can be bad. You know, as financial advisors, you know, we are big proponents of education. And of course, you know, this is what we do. We educate. We take our show on the road. We do Social Security seminars. We do this show. You know, we do a lot. But there's always information. If you're working for a corporation of any size, you know, they generally have retirement plans, and you really should take advantage of that, Steve. Payroll deduction is a great thing. Comes right out of your paycheck. You never see it. It goes right into retirement. You usually get a tax break. You know, what's not to love about that? If you don't have that, you know, there's IRAs. You should be taking advantage of IRAs because, again, you get a tax break. I mean, there are things out there that you can be doing, but the key is in saving. You got to save money. You got to pay yourself first, and really live below your means. And what I mean by that is spend less than you make. It's really an easy equation. And if you do that, you know, that's really how to build wealth. If you look at our client base, the people that have wealth, that's how they've done it. There's really no magic to it. There's no like one, you know, get rich quick scheme. It's really building wealth over time.
And Jeff, taking a step back to Social Security, how should that decision be made? What are some of the elements, some of the things one should consider before they actually make that lifelong decision?
Well, it should not be made in a vacuum. Let me say that. There's a lot of things to consider. You want to consider taxes. You want to consider other sources of income, your 401k, your health. There's a lot of things to consider when making that Social Security decision. And, of course, your spouse, too, because spousal coordination of benefits.
And so when at Informed Family Financial, retirement planning is one element of the whole planning process. So maybe take me through what does it look like, the planning process, and what else goes into that with Informed Family?
Well, we get pretty involved with this, with the planning, because it starts with your income. How are you going to get income in retirement? And, you know, you want to coordinate your Social Security benefit, your pension if you have one, and then how you claim your 401k. So there's you know, we have income models that we've built that help you make this decision, make projections out over time, and really, Steve, it's something that you want to pay attention to. It requires planning. You know, some people spend more time planning for their vacation than they do planning for their retirement, but it really requires planning, and it should start, you know, many years before you actually do retire.
Okay. And at Informed Family Financial, tell us a little bit about, you know, are you independent? What sort of companies do you have out there that you can actually look to for solutions?
Well, we're independent, so that gives us access to a lot. But more importantly, Steve, it's important for us to act in that fiduciary role. We're acting in the best interest of our clients. And, you know, when you have access to a lot of product and a lot of services, that allows you to, you know, to match up the product with the need of the client. And when you're looking for an advisor, that's really, really important, because you want to make sure they're looking out for you and not looking out for themselves or looking out for some big company. So that's really important.
Okay. And since we discussed that pensions are really going away, what sort of strategies is Informed Family defensive? Can they build guaranteed income for clients?
Well, really, Steve, the answer to that is in annuities, because with annuities you can build up guarantees. And then getting back to your 4% question of what's a safe amount to withdraw, you can accomplish that more with an annuity when you have built-in guarantees, because now you're shifting the risk of the insurance company, which makes all the difference in the world. It's an annuity, it's an insurance product. So, you know, if you decide that you want to contact our office, take advantage of, you know, what we have to offer, you know, we can show you some various strategies that we use with annuities. But here's another thing that's really, really important, and maybe you can speak to this, and that is risk, because risk is such a huge part of how you manage your retirement.
Yep.
And I know, you know, one of the things that you've really done a good job with our clients is, you know, help manage the risk.
Yep.
And maybe we can put the slide up, you know, the not your father's stock market
Yep.
slide, and then maybe you can speak
Yep.
to how we manage the risk inside of the
Yep.
client's portfolio.
And Jeff, being that I'm a certified financial planner, the main focus is a couple things. One is comprehensive financial planning with the client's goals, and the second thing is really identifying their true risk tolerance. And there's it's a Nobel economics winning software that
it actually measures risk, and it looks like, it's almost like a speed limit or how fast you're going. And so it looks at, if it starts at a 1 would be the lowest, and that's virtually no risk, and then the scale goes up to 99. And so therefore 99, if you were in a car and you were driving someplace, you'd get there quickly, but you wouldn't get there all the time because you're going so fast. There's a lot of risk. And if you measure a 1, you'd get there all the time, but it may take you days to get there. And so this is something we sit down, start with financial planning, and then really measure the risk. And what we find, Jeff, is that when you look at this, and it is the longest bull run in history, people tend to really forget what their true risk tolerance is. So we'll sit down with clients, and we'll measure the risk, and then we look at their investments, and what they don't realize is they're taking on a lot of excess risk.
Yeah, well, that's true, and I think it's good that we can quantify it, because I think it's just human nature that people just don't understand the risk inside of a portfolio. On both sides of that, they're either taking too much risk or they're taking too little risk. You know, we've seen it. You know, we've really seen it cut both ways, and I think the way that you quantify it. And how do you quantify that, Steve? Can you talk about that a little bit?
Well, we look at, there's a scale, and everybody, when they go through the exercise, will get assigned a number, and that number is really what their risk is.
And it's through what, like a questionnaire?
The one's a questionnaire, and the other is really how much are you comfortable on the downside, actually losing money or your portfolio going down. And then what we do, Jeff, is we back test it. So we can take their exact portfolio, but we can go back to the down market, 2007, 2008, and we can tell them, we can say, this is how your portfolio would have performed. And I would say 9 out of 10 times that's really eye-opening for people to really see how much they would have lost. And when a lot of our clients, when they went through that down market, that was 10, 12 years ago, and they would have been 10, 15 years away from retirement. In a lot of cases, you can take that on, that downturn, and still be okay. But because of today and our clientele being mostly within 5 years of retirement, there's no way that their portfolio can take that right now.
So in other words, what you're saying is, if 2008 were to repeat itself, a lot of people would be in trouble.
They would be in trouble. Yeah. And now that they're much closer to retirement, they don't have the time to ride it out.
Right.
And that's how we help.
So
people.
I guess the other thing that you're saying is, if you're still working, like if you were, and back in 2008, like, so if we could turn back the hands of time, it's 2008, and you're 40.
Yep.
You can ride out
Yep.
even a significant downturn like that.
Yes. Yes.
Because the market went way down. The
Yep.
market went down, in 1 year it went down 38%.
Yep.
You can overcome that.
Yes.
But if retirement is imminent, if you're 1 year away or 2 years away, or maybe you retired on that day,
Yep.
then it's hard to overcome.
And with our clients, that's probably one of the biggest introductions or mindsets to change with clients, is that they've been saving for 30, 40 years, riding these out, buying more shares, buying more investments, and letting the market ride. And a lot of the people we see now, they've won the game, and it's great job on what you've been doing. You need to do something else and get more defensive. Put some guarantees of income in there. And that's mentally, that's a huge shift for people.
Yeah, and I think, and again, going back to your father's stock market slide, I think that buy and hold strategy that maybe worked back in the 80s and 90s isn't working today.
Yeah.
You need more of an active style, more of an active approach to these investments, so that you can protect what you have.
Yeah, and I use my parents as an example. My dad was a machinist for Eastman Kodak. My mom was a school secretary. And when you talk about what retirement looks like 20 years ago, they both have small pensions, they have Social Security, and they don't have to worry about anything. And so today, the environment has really changed for people.
Yeah, and I think if we look at young people coming up, you know, the millennial generation, the important thing for them to know is that, and there is hope. It's not like we're trying to paint this bleak picture. There is hope, but you have to take control of your own environment. You have to take control of your own investments. You have to, make sure you're living within your means. You're regular investing in retirement. It's really something that you need to pay attention to.
And Jeff, this is one of the ways we reach people through the TV show. What are some other ways that we get the word out there?
Well, we take our show on the road. We have, we have seminars that we go around town, and we do these workshops. We've been doing these for a very long time, over the last 18 years. So you can see up on the screen, an upcoming workshop that we have. And these are open to the public, so call our office for tickets. We can have you come in as one of our guests, and you can, see Jeff and Steve live, and our workshops. They're quite entertaining and informative.
Yep.
So, with all that being said, Steve, this is a very important topic, retirement, and we'll probably continue to talk about this because it's not something that you can't cover the vast subject of retirement with one show. So I think it's important that we get this message out there because we want to have the public educated so they can make good informed decisions in retirement. So with all that being said, this is Financially Speaking with Jeff Bush.